Hello, everyone. We're going to start in just a few seconds. All right, so hi, everyone. I want to introduce Colleen from Quest University of Canada. Hello, Colleen. Everyone. We're going to start in just a few seconds. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Depending on where in the world you are, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with Apply Wave. And I am going to talk a little bit about 21st century learning. Now, when we talk about 21st century learning, what I'm really referring to is a modern style of education, which is based on years of practice and research and neuroscience. And where we're at today is the information age. We've moved away from the rote learning of the Industrial Revolution era style of learning, and we're now in a new era that's based on the processing and the evaluation of information. And nowadays, we carry around a computer in our pocket, sometimes on our wrist. And so we don't need to remember through memorization information about society and life. What we need to learn is the critical thinking, the quantitative reasoning behind the evaluation of information. And so that's really what I'm referring to with 21st century learning. So we're going to dive into a few of these concepts today, and framed around the university that I work at, which is called Quest University, located in a town called Squamish, which is about 45 minutes drive north of the city of Vancouver on the west coast of Canada. If any of you have heard of the Whistler Ski Resort, where we held the 2010 Winter Olympics, then Squamish is halfway between Vancouver and Whistler. Now, our university is a very young university. It was founded in 2007. So we've only been around for 14 years. But in that time, we've really made some impacts on the post-secondary landscape here in Canada and across North America. So to begin with, what I'd like to do is introduce this concept of 21st century learning. So there are three key areas that I want to talk about. And one of the things that 21st century learning is built on is exploration, okay? Searching for information and discovering information yourself. We don't need a professor standing on a stage telling us the information we need to know. Part of being in the information age is finding out this information for ourselves, okay? And we do this through discussion-based learning. Now, it's difficult to have a discussion with 400 people in the lecture hall. So what's important for this style of learning is to have smaller class sizes that can engage one another as a group, but also break out into smaller groups so that a smaller number of students can discuss topics and explore ideas themselves. Now, here at Quest, we have a maximum class size of 20 students. Okay, that's 20 students plus a professor. And we sit around an oval boardroom table. So it's more like being in an office than it is in a lecture hall at a university. So we sit around an oval table, and this format alone facilitates discussion because we are looking at each other in the eyes. We're examining the verbal cues that come out of discussion, okay? Now, another thing we do here at Quest is we've eliminated majors. Now, a major is simply a collection of subjects that you put together to get a specialization, if you will, in a specific subject area. But here at Quest, we wanted it to be more engaging. We wanted learning to be more relevant, more meaningful. And so by eliminating majors, we've replaced it with what we call a question. And again, when we talk about exploration of learning, that's what the question is designed to do. The question is there, it's created by you, the student, with guidance of your professors, which we call tutors here at Quest. Because we don't profess information, we help you find that information yourself. We tutor you to find that information. And so when we develop a question, what you are actually developing is a pathway to learning. Okay, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more as we go through here. So one of the unique things about learning today is we have such a body of neuroscience to draw from when looking at how students best learn. And one of the things that we've done is we offer the block plan across the entire university. And what happens with the block plan is students study one course at a time for 3.5 weeks. Then you complete that and you move on to the next subject for another 3.5 weeks. And in the duration of a regular semester, you will complete 4 classes, very similar to what you would do at a traditional university. But instead of taking 4 courses at the same time, we take them separately. We take them subsequently, okay? So that what this allows you to do as a student is fully immerse yourself into the subjects that you are studying. You don't need to compromise this subject for another subject because that exam is worth more, or that assignment is worth a lot of your grade. So when we use the block plan, it not only allows you to immerse yourself in learning, but it provides your classmates and your professor the opportunity to go into the place where learning happens. If you're studying forestry, for example, we'll take you out into the forest. If you're studying oceanography, we'll take you out to the ocean. We also offer some study abroad trips during one block. For example, every other year, we go to Antarctica. And this is just one class, and it's a 3.5 week long class. This year, we're studying the classics around the Aegean Sea in Greece. So we're going to Greece to learn about Greek mythology, Greek history, Greek architecture. And because you are together with your class alone for 3.5 weeks, there's no scheduling conflicts with other courses. So by offering the block plan, we are offering you some very unique opportunities for learning. And this is one of the advantages of, like I said, the 21st century learning style, where we've broken the mold of traditional learning. So to summarize what the block plan can offer is it offers that immersive experience. It's flexible, where you can also take a month off. If you are a world-class athlete, for example, you can take 1 or 2 or 3 months off while you're competing on the world stage. Okay, if you have a family wedding back home that you want to go attend, you can take a month off. You can take the entire block off and go home for that block. Okay. Now, it's also very interactive. Because you spend 3 hours a day for 3.5 weeks with the same students, you really get to know one another. You build meaningful and rich relationships amongst each other. You create a very positive and safe learning environment because everybody becomes comfortable with each other, and you are encouraged to work together, to collaborate on assignments, on projects, but also it allows you the opportunity to understand each other. And that's one of the important goals, one of the important learning outcomes here at Quest is to understand yourself and your place in the world. Okay, your place amongst your peers, amongst your classmates. And this is what the block plan can offer. So this is a photograph of one of our classes that did go down to Antarctica to study oceanography and ecology. So these are life-changing experiences that enrich your learning experience, but also your life experience. And that's what your time at university should be about. So another thing I talked about with the block plan is that experiential learning. Okay, so where we're able to go into a specific location to study in person what is otherwise studied in a book. So this is a photograph from a course we did in the Western United States in Utah, where we studied the tectonics of Western United States. And there's no better place than doing that in the Western United States. Much better than watching videos and reading from a textbook. And again, this is what the block plan can offer students. We also have opportunities for study abroad. And this goes back to that learning outcome of yourself in the world, being able to, understand your own beliefs and values in relation to others and what others around the world feel are their core values. Okay, so again, university is about discovery. It's about exploration, not only about information, but it's about yourself. And there's nothing better than studying abroad to find out about who you are and what you believe in. And so this is a big part of what we do at Quest. Now, as I mentioned before, we have discussion-based classes. So this is an example of a breakout room where we would have our students, from a class of 20, break out into groups of 4, 5, or 6, and go into a room to explore problems and questions and ideas and perspectives, where we share rich and meaningful conversations to assist us in learning and exploring ideas. We also use a lot of project-based learning. It's not just lectures. We use our hands, we use our minds, we collaborate together to come up with solutions. And this is an example of where we employ the 4 C's of education every day. And those 4 C's are communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. These 4 C's are in demand in any industry once you complete your university studies and start a career. And so when we have discussion-based learning, project-based learning, experiential learning, this is how we can come up with creative solutions using critical thinking to solve some of today's problems. So our students aspire to change the world, and we're giving them the tools every single day to do that. Now, when we break out our program, we look at 2 components, the foundation and the concentration. So this isn't too different from traditional studies, where you take the first 2 years of general studies, and then you move into your major in 3rd and 4th year. However, for us, we start off with what we call a foundation. The 2 courses that everybody must take when they start here at Quest are Cornerstone and Rhetoric. Cornerstone teaches you how to learn. Rhetoric teaches you how to build an argument. Now, of course, we do much more in these courses, but those are really the core goals of these courses, so that as you progress through your learning at Quest, you have the tools to be able to absorb as much information and explore and find out, discover as much information as you can. Now, I mentioned before, we have no majors, only questions. So some of the examples in an interdisciplinary approach could be how we use natural resources without undermining the resilience of ecosystems. How can we build better cities? What is coherent design? And how do we communicate across different cultures? So what you'll find here is that many of the questions the students choose at Quest are very interdisciplinary in nature, but they also have personal meaning to those students. These are observations they've made of society, of themselves, that they want to pursue further. So what we're essentially offering is an undergraduate thesis, okay? Now, these are just some examples of what some of our past students have chosen. So how can we better communicate science? This was an interdisciplinary model of media studies, visual arts, and sociology. And Tala is now working as an animator with the New York Times. Roz here, her question was, how can we understand complexity? And it focused on neuroscience, physics, and mathematics. Currently, she is now finishing up her medicine degree at the University of British Columbia. Okay. Now let's move on to the concentration program. In the concentration program, this is where we really focus on the courses that will help you solve that question that you've created for your final 2 years. And the keystone presentation at the end is essentially that undergraduate thesis that you're presenting. And all students present this to the school so that years 1, 2, and 3 can see what their senior students are doing and what kinds of problems that they're tackling, the kinds of questions that they're answering. Okay, let's take another example of Nessa. Nessa's question was, what shapes one's reality? And now she's progressed on to a clinical psychology PhD program at Harvard University. Ricky here. Yes.
Yeah, there's a few questions coming up from students. So, you want to...
Let me just wrap this up then.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about some of these transferable skills. And what you can see here is that this is all geared towards careers, okay? We're not only preparing you for society and life, but these are transferable skills that any job would be happy to have you bring with you onto that company, okay? So now that we're coming to the end of the presentation, I'd like to take this opportunity to answer some of your questions.
So, Colin, one of the questions that came in was, how long does it take to complete the bachelor's at your school, since it's kind of a different model, I guess?
Yeah, 4 years. It's the same as same duration as regular degrees, and we're accredited by the same accrediting body as any other university in British Columbia, Canada.
Okay, thank you, Colin. And I think related questions would be, since this program is non-traditional, will it make it harder for me to get a job offer after I graduate?
In fact, it makes it easier. By having that question, it becomes a speaking point in your job interview. Whereas other students have just done a major. They just did a group of classes in a certain subject. You've done a question. So you can explain the depth of your exploration to that prospective employer. And in fact, some of our students, like Ricky that I gave you the example of, he's now working for carbon engineering. Okay, his question was about, was related to climate change and the effect of carbon on climate change. And now he's working for a carbon engineering company, and that's directly related to his question. We have another student from Mexico whose question was, how can we ensure every village has clean drinking water? He is now back in Mexico running a nonprofit organization bringing water to villages in Mexico. So in fact, the question can give you a direct entry into jobs of your choice. But it also allows you to pursue graduate studies. And in fact, some of our students have gone on to PhD programs directly after their graduation here at Quest, because their question has such significant meaning and such significant value that the university has seen that as the equivalent of a master's degree and has allowed them to go directly into a PhD program. So yes, our program is unconventional, but it's been very well proven that it can get you an advantage in the workforce or going on to grad studies.
That's really awesome. I mean, I think this is really amazing, Colin. Those kind of opportunities. So another question, which is kind of related, can I work while I'm studying? So we talk about the opportunities after, you graduate. What about during the studies?
Yes, absolutely. Now, the program here is intensive, right? We're taking a 4-month course and we're teaching it in 1 month. Okay. So sometimes you might have a lot of reading to do one night. You might have a project that's assigned to you, lunchtime one day and it's due the morning of the next day. So while the academic rigor is high, there's definitely an opportunity for you to work part-time while you're studying. The economy here in British Columbia is extremely strong, and we have more jobs available in the service industry than we have people to work those jobs. So for our university students in Squamish here, there are lots of jobs available to work part-time outside of your studies. And that is legally possible. And if you do take the summer off, then you're eligible to work full-time for those 4 months of the summer semester.
So just to clarify, Colin, so it's about, what's the scope of the work? 20 hours a week during the school
Yes,
year,
20
and about
hours a week
40
maximum.
hours when there's on a break, correct?
Well, yeah, I actually believe there is no stated maximum number of hours when you're on the break.
Okay.
It's just stated as full-time work. So
Gotcha.
to my understanding is there's no limit to the number of hours you can work when you're on that break.
So since we have a few more minutes and we don't have questions, I would want to just kind of ask how is the school is connected with the workforce around? Do you have any connections with local companies where people can do internships and kind of like get into their careers?
Yeah, absolutely. Between here in Squamish and 45 minutes to the south in Vancouver, there are lots of job opportunities available to our students. Pardon me. Even within your program, you can take up to 4 blocks of an internship. Okay, now ideally that internship feeds into your question so that you can get work experience while you're studying for your question. So one of the major opportunities is there's a carbon engineering company that reclaims carbon out of the atmosphere, and many of our students have gone and done research work with them. In the city as well, there are lots of opportunities for you to be working, during an entire block where you can work full-time for a month, working with a specific company as an internship. And also during those summer months I mentioned, where you could be working for that company while you're working towards your question. So yes, there are lots of opportunities with both small and large employers.
Oh, that sounds really amazing, Colin. So any final thoughts before we wrap up the session?
Well, I think I'd just like to summarize in terms of 21st century learning, that's what Quest has really done. Being a young university that was granted $100 million and 240 acres to create a vision, this is what we've done. We have created this vision of 21st century learning and put it into practice. So we have benefited from hundreds of years of expertise that have all come together to build a unique model for undergraduate studies. Okay, that's what we focus on, is undergraduate studies only. We don't do grad studies at our university, and it's really geared towards that undergraduate experience. So there are very few schools in North America that do what we do. There are some in the United States, but there's nothing like Quest in Canada. So if you're interested in coming to Canada and possibly immigrating here afterwards, Quest is an amazing spot for you to get started.
It does definitely sounds like that, Colin, and I appreciate your time. Students are watching this session, feel free to contact Colleen directly on the platform. If you have any questions, he'd love to, talk to you and chat with you on the platform. And thank you so much, Colleen, for being here today.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you to ApplyWave for having us.